Washington taking on Arizona State from Sun Devil Stadium. They're going to go for it on 4th and 3.
Does it surprise you whatsoever?
In this situation, yeah. You get the first down, the game's over. They do snap it, and Wilkins will throw it, gets hit, and the pass. Oh my goodness, it's caught! How did he catch that? C.J. French lob inside the 10, 1st and goal, and that might be the game. And there it is. Wilkins takes a knee. The Devils upset number 5, Washington. And Arizona State wins it 13-7. Washington falls to 6-1. ASU goes to 3-3.
What's happening, y'all, and welcome into HouseOfSparky.com's football show. I'm Blaine McCormick. He's Troy Lynch. We say this every week, but what a week in college football. Just upset after upset. One of them just down the street from us.
And there was also flip after flip. But yes, we have all the footage and highlights of that ASU upset over number 5 Washington. So let's get right into it. Arizona State hosting the undefeated number 5 Huskies at Sun Devil Stadium. That happened last Saturday night. Let's pick things up in the first quarter. Wilkins to Kalen Ballage, a 1-yard touchdown for him, making the score 7-0. And that was on the first drive, Blaine. Getting started early. You can tell the fans were excited, and they're excited about this too. 52-yard field goal attempt for freshman Brandon Ruiz. He is money. Cha-ching. That's good, makes the score 10-0. And Blaine, look, it's you when you were younger.
Hey, I used to work out.
Yes, you did. Sun Devils back on the offensive. Manny Wilkins trying to warm up his arm, chucks it down the field, finds Jalen Harvey for 36 yards. That sets up this field goal. From 25 yards out, a little shorter than 52 yards, Brandon Ruiz nails it 13-0 at halftime. Jake Browning hasn't been shut out before, trying to get something going for these Huskies, but DJ Calhoun says no way. His sack of the night, but the Sun Devils were able to sack Browning 5 times. Now we'll bring it. Huskies trying to put some points up on the board. This is Tristan Vizcaino from 27 yards. No good. Are you serious? Wow, that would have put some points up on the board, but the Sun Devils still lead 13-0. He gets another try from 21 yards out. What? That just hit off the post. 2 missed field goals for the Huskies. That would have tied the game. Jake Browning says enough is enough. I'm just going to do things myself. Look at my legs. Yes, I am fast. Runs all the way, but only gets inches from the end zone. He's able to punch it in on the next play. It's 13-7. Now, 4th quarter, 4th and 3 on the Husky 37. Manny Wilkins needs this first down to seal the deal. Finds C.J. Frenchlove. Not really sure how that happened, but he scrambles for 30 yards, and that seals the deal. The Sun Devils upset the number 5 Huskies as they fall to 6-1 on the season. ASU improves to 2-3, and that was their first win over a top 5 team in 21 years. And a win over a top 10 team does not mean one analyst, it means 2 analysts. And we brought in the best, Josiah Desson from HouseOfSparky.com and Kalen Jones from Sourcing. Guys, 13-7 was the final score. Were either of you guys surprised by this outcome? Because I think everybody was.
Personally, I wasn't. No, I was really surprised, Troy. Come on. I think I had it 31-14. I knew ASU was going to give up points. I didn't know they were only going to give up 7. Coming into that game, ASU had given up 30 points for 11 consecutive matchups, and to give up just a touchdown, that's kind of ridiculous. But I knew the Sun Devils had a chance at winning. Just I didn't think that was going to be the score.
Kalen?
Well, I mean, I was completely surprised. I didn't expect ASU to have too much of a shot. Maybe going in the day of the game after you saw all the Pac-12 after Dark Madness that happened before, and even the Syracuse upset of Clemson, maybe ASU had a shot, but I was completely surprised by how dominant ASU looked during that matchup. So, credit to them because they shocked everybody.
And I like the word you used, dominance, and that's what the defense was. They held Washington scoreless for the first half, and then they didn't score a touchdown until what I believe was the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. Nobody was expecting this kind of defense performance. They had 5 sacks on the night. Jake Browning coming into that game only was sacked 5 times total throughout the entire year. What do you say about the defense?
Yeah, Troy, exactly your point I was just about to make. I mean, even though it's been ASU's secondary, people really pointed at for the last 2 years, the secondary, are they going to get better? But it's really the front seven that came up to play, and it made the job much easier. Browning had no time to really throw the ball. You know, after the game, ASU described him as shook, and really he just couldn't make the choices he wanted in the pocket, and that's what he's good at. He didn't throw an interception, but he only had a touchdown, and it wasn't looking great for him.
Yeah, no, it was completely surprising. Like you mentioned, Josie, to see the front seven completely dominate that game for ASU. And then you look at how well the secondary played as well. Chase Lucas and Kobe Williams helped shut down one of the best receivers in the Pac-12 in Dante Pettis, holding him under 75 yards. That was a complete defensive performance and one that they can build on for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Jake Browning had 14 touchdowns through the air coming into that game, and his only touchdown was on the ground. It's for 1 yard. So it's kind of weird because out of 30 pass attempts, he was pressured 19 different times. So really credit to that Arizona State defensive line. But they did have opportunities to score. More notably in the third quarter, they missed 2 field goals. One from 27 yards, one from 21 yards. They do that, the game's tied. How do you see that playing out if they make those field goals?
Yeah, that makes sense if they make those, but the bigger picture that I see is that ASU was able to stop them at the 4-yard line and at the 9-yard line. I mean, those are 2 big red zone stops, and say Washington gets 1 touchdown out of one of those rather than 2 field goals, they win the game. So, I mean, it's really different right there, but I think that's more on the defense, just stopping them in the red zone than missed field goals, because you can only hope for those. Those don't happen.
Yeah, no, to Josiah's point, that's a phenomenal point. Like, if ASU's defense gives up points in the red zone, it's a completely different game. We're talking about Washington going down to potentially win the game on that final drive. But again, like you mentioned, you create your own luck. Yeah, so for ASU's defense to be able to step up in those situations, force Washington to kick those 2 field goals, which they've had issues with throughout the entire season, as we saw again last Saturday. You know, you got to give credit where credit's due, and ASU's defense did everything they could to earn that result.
Yeah, not to mention Arizona State, they did have an opportunity to score a touchdown. Ryan Jenkins, he missed a touchdown catch. It was tough, don't get me wrong. It was very tough. Yeah. But offensively, they were getting the ball rolling, especially in the first half. 13 points, though. How do you guys rate their offensive performance for the Sun Devils?
Yeah, 13 points, that's well below their average of over 30. I mean, but the thing that you really want to look at is the time of possession the Sun Devils had.
Yeah.
They took 8 minutes off the clock, and their first drive of the game, they really set the tone, set the pace. They still ran a lot of plays, but they were able to get in the huddle and just take time off the clock, make sure Washington didn't have the ball, because they've got a high-powered offense, but ASU, they've got one in general. And that first drive took 8 minutes. They got the touchdown. Then fast forward to that second field goal, that took almost 6 minutes. So, you know, ASU did a great job of just holding the ball.
Yeah, no, offensively, it was a mixed bag. Obviously, the first possession of the game, as Josiah mentioned, like the fact that they were able to eat up the clock and prevent Washington's offense from being able to step on the field, that was definitely key. But, you know, the players talked about after the game. Like Manny Wilkins was saying, we left points out on the field. So it wasn't necessarily a complete performance, but something, again, that they can build off on. I think that the running game is something that they're still waiting to really ratchet up going in forward. They did a great job utilizing N'Keal Harry, who, again, they went up against the number 4 rated team in the nation, and they were rated that high for a reason because of how dominant their defense has been. They came in allowing defense or opposing offenses under 20 points a game, which is still true because they held ASU to 13, but it was just enough.
Yeah, and I think the most impressive thing about this Sun Devil offense is that they didn't have any turnovers.
Oh, no.
I mean, a couple weeks ago against Stanford, Manny Wilkins threw his first interception, and he had 2 in the game total, but there were no fumbles, no interceptions. I think overall, the offense played really, really well in that aspect as well.
Yeah, Troy, Arizona State has only had 5 turnovers all year. That's just something I was looking at a little bit earlier, researching.
That's crazy.
And you know what? That's the least in the Pac-12. So that's definitely going to help, and that'll definitely help against Utah, who's had 17 turnovers all year. That's second most in the Pac-12. Wow. So I mean, that's something other than just leading the penalties in the least and leading the nation in least penalties.
Yeah.
Turnovers is definitely a big factor.
Yeah, it's definitely impressive because Washington, easily the best team in the Pac-12 when it comes to defense. But last question for you guys, how does this game change the Sun Devils for the rest of this season?
I think the whole season can turn around right now. If you're asking me personally, this looked like a stretch where ASU could seriously lose some games. USC, Washington, and Colorado, and then Utah, all in that stretch right there all together. I mean, those are some tough games, especially a couple on the road. But, I mean, ASU is looking like another team right now. Momentum going forward for them. If you asked me if they could beat any team in the Pac-12 before the season, I'd say yes, but do they have a better chance at it now?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To that point, Josiah, like how you mentioned that now they have a chance, they have a focal point that they can draw back to. Performances against Oregon, performances against Washington. Now you're looking forward and looking at the rest of your schedule, which is relatively easier than the start of it. Now you're looking at maybe USC as a potential winnable game. You're looking at UCLA, Arizona down the stretch, and even against Oregon State. Those are all winnable games. So now we were talking about them maybe not being a bowl team. We're looking at maybe ASU winning 4 or 5 games. Now they're in the realm of what, 5, 6, 7, 8 potentially. I mean, anything can happen at this point. You're looking at a team again that has been even keeled throughout the entire season. As so long as they maintain that mentality, they can ride that momentum as far as they can.
Yeah, it's actually funny because I saw a tweet after the game where it says Arizona State's the best 2-3 team in the country. And I honestly think that's true. But guys, thanks so much for joining us. That's Josiah Desmond from HouseOfSparky.com, and that's Kalen Jones from Source.com. Go check out both of their work.
There's some things that went unnoticed in the midst of all the chaos. For example, some fans may not even realize that Christian Sam tied a career-high 11 tackles. Cool, but he's done that 2 other times this season. I'd say he deserves a hug from Coach Graham. Now, speaking of the defense, the Sun Devils held the number 5 team in the country to only 7 points. Prior to last week, the Huskies scored an average of 43 points per game. The pressure the Sun Devils brought to quarterback Jake Browning was crazy. Browning was sacked 5 times for a loss of 45 yards. Prior to coming to Tempe, Browning was only sacked 5 times on the season. But the most important thing to look at is what the experience of beating a top 5 opponent is. And some players reflected on that.
It's like a dream come true, really. You see that a lot. I saw it in the Syracuse-Clemson game, and I was wondering, like, what if that happens during our game, and it happened. So it was really like a dream, and it didn't even feel real for a second.
Kind of everybody just kind of came together, and the coaches came up with a great plan for us on offense, and Washington was really tough on defense, really talented group. Got a lot of NFL caliber guys, and I just think we played well.
The game was real hype, but it was just pretty crazy, the experience. When I look back on it, it was kind of nerve-wracking, and just everything that kind of went down in the game, kind of the process. But, the energy in the locker room was just crazy after. And on the field, especially when the fans came on. I heard it's like a Pac-12, what is it called? A violation when they do that. So, it was cool, but it was just a good experience. But, we're kind of past that now. We're, still keeping that momentum, to go into Utah.
But like I said, we expected to win. And the worst thing for us right now is to start looking at ourselves as, we're good, we're chilling, you got to practice, don't have to work hard anymore. The important thing is just getting better every day. Just use it as we're in the position we need to be in now.
Well, there you have it. The team, they weren't surprised, but basically everybody else was. And just because you beat the number 5 team in the nation doesn't mean that there aren't pros and cons of where the Arizona State football team is at right now. Blaine, I'll start things off. Yes, they won 13-7. It's a great win for the program. A top 5 team goes down. They didn't score any points in the second half. They have a tough schedule coming up with Utah and USC. And if that is the case, you're going to have to put up more points. You have to be a first and second half team if you want to win in the Pac-12.
I totally agree with you. Consistency is key for the Sun Devils, but their offense has taken opportunities presented to them, and along with those, they're going to convert. Look at the weapons they have. You got N'Keal Harry, you got Kalen Ballage, both top performers for their respective positions, along with Brandon Ruiz, one of the guys who was probably the most consistent that the Sun Devils have had this season as their kicker. If you don't convert on third down, you can always have him for the extra boot. And then Ryan Jenkins, people forget that this guy almost caught a touchdown in the game. He was diving for it, it came out of his hands. But it's opportunities like those that they have to take advantage of, and I think they can do that. Don't sleep on the offense.
A big opportunity missed for the Sun Devils, but the Huskies, they missed 2 even bigger ones. It was Tristan Vizcaino, the Husky kicker, who missed 2 very crucial field goals, both within 30 yards. And Blaine, if they made those, the game would have been tied 13-13 going into the fourth quarter. That is a game changer, literally.
Exactly, and the defense wasn't too spunky on those drives, but they can be energized when they need to be, and especially from the cornerbacks. Kobe Williams and Chase Lucas. Just two people that I want to point out. But it was SWAT City from them against the Huskies because they were just on their game. I think that was the best game that those two have played together, and that chemistry is just going to build down the road.
Yeah, but they're going to have to take that into a very hard place in Utah right now. And the Utes, they're coming off a 2-game losing streak right now, and they're hungry. They're a team that they don't take that very lightly, and those were really close games against some really good teams. 2 weeks ago against Stanford, you lose 20-23, and then last week you only lose by 1 point against USC. Those are tight games, and some games arguably they probably could have won, but now the Sun Devils are coming into their home territory, and ASU, they haven't even won a game on the road yet, so in favor of Utah, I think that's going to happen.
And it's going to be a cold one in Utah, but the fire that they needed has come at the right time because they just took down a top 5 team in the country. People need to realize that. And they held them to 7 points.
That's true.
Only 7 points, not even into double digits yet. So I think the defense can hold their own against the Utes. Yes, they're coming off a 2-game losing streak. Yes, they're going to be hungry, but I think the Sun Devils are starving at this point. But that's pros and cons for this episode. We're going to send it over to Julian Paras to give us a recap of the mid-season MVPs.
Thanks, guys. This week we're going to switch things up a little bit and look at players who have performed and who are deserving of being mid-season MVPs. For special teams, I have to go with the freshman kicker out of Gilbert, Arizona, Brandon Ruiz. On the season, Ruiz has completed 8 of 12 field goals. Now, although that is 66.7% of field goals made, he contributed last game with 2 field goals against Washington, including the game winner against Oregon earlier this year. And keep in mind, Ruiz is a freshman with lots of time to build and become better. Moving on to defense, senior linebacker out of El Cerrito, California, DJ Calhoun is our defensive midseason MVP. Calhoun has been the guy the Sun Devils can rely on when it comes to getting tackles and stopping the opposing offense in its place. In addition, he's been able to rack up more solo than assisted tackles with around 5.8 tackles per game, and not to mention, he recorded his first sack of the season in the upset win against the number 5 ranked Washington Huskies. Finally, for offense, this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. It is the captain himself, junior Manny Wilkins. Everything about Wilkins this year has improved. His completion percentage, yards per pass attempt, his raw QB rating went up 12.1 points, and he's shown that he's not afraid to throw the football. Not to mention that we are 7 weeks into the season, and he's only thrown 2 interceptions. Throughout this season, Wilkins has been the unquestioned leader for the Sun Devils and is seen as our offensive midseason MVP. There you have it. Thanks for tuning in, and let us know who you think is deserving of being a midseason MVP. I'll send it back to you guys.
Well, thanks so much, Julian, for pointing out those Sun Devils standouts. Now we're going to introduce a segment where we choose the standouts that we see in the crowd. Obviously, when we're filming football, the crowd is very loud. Plus, there's signs. They're kind of loud, too.
I like them.
But they're always creative with them, so we picked 2 of the most creative that we saw this weekend. First one we're pointing at you. Troy, have you ever heard of the popular ESPN show SportsCenter?
I think I might have seen it once or twice.
Once or twice. It's pretty recognized. This fan really, really wants to be on it.
Oh, wow.
Put me on SportsCenter, he says.
It has nothing to do with the game.
Exactly. It's just like a white paper with some black marker on it. Put me on SportsCenter. I'm not sure if it made the show that night, but it did make it on our show, which is just as rewarding, right?
I would assume, if not better. All right, but Blaine, here's my next question. Do you like cupcakes?
Oh my gosh, as a starving college student, any cupcake that's in front of me, I eat.
Do you like Arizona State?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, that's good because Arizona State is not a cupcake, and here is Exhibit A. Once it pops up, FYI Washington/ESPN, ASU is not a cupcake. Unfortunate for certain students who are starving right now because we don't have a lot of money in our wallets. But this is funny just because it's relevant to the game. Everybody thought Washington was going to roll over the Sun Devils and ended up not being the case. But it's actually kind of funny because Arizona State quite literally is not a cupcake. If they were, they'd be the most delicious university in the nation.
And innovative, might I add.
Yeah.
And look at the innovation that this fan put into the poster. The ESPN font, the Washington logo, even the cupcake. It looks so delicious. It's something that you find at your Fry's Superstore or something like that. It just took a lot of effort to make this poster, and look where it ended up.
Washington could not handle the frosting. And we want to say a big congratulations to whoever came up with this poster. You are the winner of Pick Your Poster for week number 6. Congratulations, but make sure you come to more games at Sun Devil Stadium with more creative posters, and you can find your poster on this show. But that's enough for Pick Your Poster. We're actually going to send it over to Os Burnett with Around the Pac-12.
Thanks, Troy. Last week was one of the wildest weeks in college football, especially in the Pac-12. Cal manhandled Washington State 37-3, handing the then-ranked number 8 Cougars their first loss of the season on Friday the 13th. Washington State quarterback Luke Falk had his worst game of the season as he threw 5 picks in the loss and was sacked 9 times in the Golden Bears upset. There was almost another upset in the Pac-12 as USC took on Utah. The Utes had the lead for most of the game, but a late comeback by the Trojans and a failed 2-point conversion by the Utes led to a USC victory. Colorado edged out Oregon State 36-33, and the Arizona Wildcats have struck gold with the quarterback Khalil Tate. The sophomore ran for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns in the Wildcats' 47-30 win over the UCLA Bruins. Tate has 557 rushing yards and 6 rushing touchdowns this year, and if he keeps that up, Tate can make his case for the Heisman. I don't think there's anything that could top what we saw this week in the Pac-12. So on that note, I'll send it back to you guys.
Earlier this week, Todd Graham said in order to beat a top 5 team in the country, you have to be on the offensive. And when the Sun Devils found themselves up by 6, facing a 4th and 3 situation with 2 minutes left on the Huskies' 37-yard line, Graham decided to go for it. The play was originally intended to be thrown to wide receiver Jalen Harvey, who was known for getting first downs. But Manny Wilkins decided to throw the ball to running back Kalen Ballage, who let the ball go over his head, and miraculously, C.J. Frenchlove found the ball in his arms and ran 30 yards before being pushed out of bounds. As soon as the 6'4" tight end got back to his feet, everyone at Sun Devil Stadium knew that the game was over, and they knew the name, Frenchlove. And the craziest part is, that was his 2nd career catch. This is what the Tempe hero said about the play at practice earlier this week.
I mean, that play I was trying to rub through the DB, and I know he was throwing it to Kalen, so I was going to block and see if he can get around the edge. When I was blocking, I looked back, and I saw the ball go over to Kalen, so I was like, oh, damn. I stick my hands out there, caught it. And at first it was hard, everything just being thrown at me, overwhelming all the plays and all that. But if you look at the bigger picture, it's really not that big. It's just come in here, be ready to play, do your job. Nobody feeling sorry for you.
A lot of stars had to align before Frenchlove could get his shot. Right out of high school, CJ played for Colorado Mesa for 1 year, which is a Division II school, but he knew he wanted to go D1. So he spent the next year at East Los Angeles College and signed with Arizona State in February. Unfortunately, he got hurt in camp and had to learn the playbook and rehab his hamstring at the same time. Then linebacker Karan Crump got injured, which made former tight end J.J. Wilson to switch to defense, which led to CJ getting his shot. And he is not disappointed. And that's why CJ Frenchlove is our feel-good story of the week.
Thanks so much, Troy, for our feel-good story of the week. Now we bring in analyst Max Madden, and he's also a film doctor here at houseofsparky.com. And I heard you have a diagnosis of what this Utes offense presents and what Troy Williams, the quarterback who's expected to play, really brings to this team. What kind of tendencies do you see from him?
Well, he's a little bit skittish in the pocket, but he's also very athletic and can make some really great plays, especially when he's pressured. Let's take a look at this play right here. So on this 3rd and long right here, Williams is going to face pressure from both a defensive end on the outside, a defensive tackle, and even a little bit from this extra edge rusher on the outside. But it's no problem for Williams. He's going to dart out of the pocket immediately. He's going to make a defensive lineman miss. He's going to make another defensive back miss, and then he makes a linebacker miss right here. A really great play from Williams. I'm sure ASU is going to bring plenty of pressure against Utah. Now, Williams is also a tremendous athlete, as we saw in that last play. They're going to do a little hook pass here. It looks like it's just a simple jet sweep to the wide receiver, but Williams is actually going to peel underneath. There he goes, fakes it and runs, and now he grabs the pass and leaps into the end zone. They use Williams all over the field, and he's just such a great athlete.
Well, it's no secret that Williams does have some wheels on him, and ASU has faced quarterbacks like that in the past. One of the most recent ones, Jake Browning from Washington, was like that, escaping pressure all the time. But when he's in the pocket and when he does his job as a quarterback and pass the ball, what do you see from him?
Well, Williams is not actually a super accurate passer. His completion percentage is hovering around 53% for the 2nd straight year. Let's take a look at this play right here to show how sometimes his athleticism can hinder him. So as this play develops, you're going to see Troy Williams, as soon as he snaps the ball, go deep into the pocket, and then he's going to go straight forward, and then he's going to go out to the side, and he's going to release from the side of the logo. Not exactly a great formula for getting off a great pass. So Williams drops back here. Kind of looks like he's playing Madden here, Blaine. He runs out and then fires the pass super off target. It's going to go way out of bounds. Not exactly a great formula, and Williams does this a lot.
Well, Williams definitely presents a lot of stuff for the Sun Devil defense to combat. Let's see if they use some cheat codes for this weekend. You mentioned Madden in there. I like
absolutely,
that.
absolutely.
So what's your prediction for this game? Give me what you're thinking right now.
Well, you know, Troy Williams is not the caliber of quarterback that Jake Browning was last week, and ASU absolutely stifled him just about all aspects of that offense. So I think that the Devils actually pull this one out on the road, 28-24.
Now, does the weather affect them at all?
I don't think so. If anything, it'll be a little bit more running the ball, but you know, that just goes in the Sun Devils' favor.
Well, expect a little bit of chilly weather and maybe a few Sun Devil jackets here and there on the sideline. But thanks so much for being here, Max. Let's move on to our Pac-12 top plays of the week. Into Tempe we go as Manny Wilkins hikes this ball, fakes the handoff, and then Y button over the defender, making a Madden-like play on that one. Hurdles the man. He's known for this too. He did it a couple times last year. Call him Nike. He's got air. ASU wins this one 13-7 over the number 5 Huskies.
And our number 2 play, USC versus Utah. Ronald Jones, this play is flipping ridiculous. You see what I did there? He goes 11 yards for the touchdown. He does his best Simone Biles impression. He only got 6 points, however, Blaine, because he did not stick the landing. But here's what he's thinking in midair. Dang, forgot to turn in my homework. It's okay, Jones, you got a 0 on the assignment, but you get number 2 for a Pac-12 top plays of the week.
Well, you saw one flip play, so let's bring in another one. Cal, Washington State, quarterback Ross Bowers for the Golden Bears going in and whoop over the defender into the end zone. Houston, we've got liftoff, the play of the weekend, and this Golden Bear makes a golden play. So flipping cool. This is just a great athletic play, and guess what, Troy? He's only a redshirt sophomore, so we're going to expect to see a lot of this stuff from him in the future. Cal upsets Washington State 37-3 in this one, and our Pac-12 top play of the week. Well, not only were there upsets, but there was flips, tricks, hurdles, you name it, it happened this weekend.
I think I can watch that Ross Bowers flip for the rest of my life. It is so entertaining, and we hope you were entertained by this show. He's Blaine McCormick. I'm Troy Lynch. If you want more Arizona State football coverage, make sure you go to houseofsparky.com. Sun Devils, Utes, that's happening later today. Make sure you tune in, and we'll see you next Saturday.